business is my, even though you called me the creative, I think of business as my craft, really. And I admire NGOs, I admire educational institutions, I admire everybody who's trying to do what they need to do. But business has this huge advantage in terms of speed and resources. So we have an even huger responsibility to care about what we do, all those things that you just said. And what I love and what makes me optimistic is that I see this collision between two generations that I don't think's ever happened before, which is the collision between the millennial generation and the baby boomer generation in terms of some shared values that may not even be articulated the same way, but the baby boomer generation, or just older people in general, get a bit more spiritual anyway, think a little bit more about legacy, think a little bit more about experience versus consumption. But the baby boomers as a generation also had some kind of let's do things better values, but they were more anarchic, I guess, throwing things over and rejecting business, rejecting for-profit institutions. And where the millennial generation has it right and is colliding nicely with the baby boomer generation is that the millennials understand that making for a for-profit company is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with capitalism, but they have a higher expectation. My general reaction to the people I know in that generation is they expect, well, who are you? What's behind your company? I'll support you in you making a profit, but I need to know that you're creating the world I want to live in as well. The human capital side, the sort of additive approach to business, not always taking, but adding to the world. So for me, that's kind of natural. And I sort of see the lines blurring almost between social venture and for-profit. If you think about that as a leader right from the start in a for-profit business. And obviously the companies we launched, many of them, since you're a fan, lost track where you are there, many of them are social ventures that are for-profit, but they have a social component that really matters. And it's totally natural to them that they wouldn't start the business any other way. It's the way they think, these entrepreneurs.
I think that in order to have a great social venture, you need to be really, really good at business. I mean, what Vanessa's doing is so extraordinary. And I think it's kind of funny that all she wanted to do was to kind of pick our brains on how she could scale her business, because if you have a great social idea, but you can't scale it, and you can't figure out the right business model, then you have a nice little social venture. And there are millions of those. There are millions of little places making a difference, and you can be one more. But if you add business perspective to it, it changes everything. And I think the same thing is true of business. I mean, the thing that I love about having built a successful business and, sold it and had an exit, which we did in 2011, is we are able to have we had a big economic impact on the city of Boston. We are able to do a tremendous amount in the community. Everybody gets 3 volunteer days a year. People are really, really involved in other things. We try to be as generous as we possibly can. We do pro bono stuff, everything else. I'm able to, be more generous. So I think the key here is, and I know it sounds like we ought to have triple bottom lines, but I think the key is to create something as big and high impact as possible. And obviously you want to do that with integrity. You want to care about the world. You don't want to mess up the environment in the process. But if you can create something, if you can dream big and create something big, you can have very big impact on society no matter what the business is. And if you're creating something small, whether it's a social venture or whether it's a more traditional business venture, you can kind of feel good, but it won't have the kind of impact you want. So what I think we need to do, if we want to really help the world, I think we have to not be afraid to create things that are substantial in their size.
I think a lot of people, and this might be also maybe a more female thing, people think that they can have a better element of control if it's small. It's not true. It's the same amount of work to do something that's small as large, and some things get a lot easier as it grows. My own job is really different from when we had 10 people. Now we have 55 plus. It's way different. I can be much more impactful in ways that I couldn't even get to certain topics or certain areas before.